Donald Trump has been adamant Greenland must come under the control of the United States of America. It is an important way of keeping America secure, and it is a potential treasure house of mineral wealth. And unnamed officials have been quoted in various media reports as saying that Donald Trump and his inner circle are considering various ways of bringing Greenland under American control, and that one of the options, which is not off the table, is military action. And perhaps it's naive of me, but I cannot see that the US will go into Greenland with armed forces. It would be a relatively easy military victory, I suspect, but the fallout would be enormous. The kind of condemnation with understanding that has greeted the Venezuelan military action, that would be nothing by comparison with the fallout should American troops move uninvited onto Greenland. He could buy it. He tried to buy Greenland during his first term of office. But that's complicated because the autonomous government in Greenland says we're not for sale. Denmark says it's not for sale. The European Union says it's not for sale. In order to get the money, in order to buy Greenland, which would be a staggering amount of money, and to have a treaty that would allow that sale, Donald Trump would need to have two-thirds approval in the Senate, which he's not going to get. So, that's a tough one as well. The European Union would have to approve. They're not going to do that. The third option is a campaign to win over Greenlanders. Settled first by indigenous peoples, then Eric the Red came in and Norse settlements were set up, and then those disappeared, and then the Inuit people moved from Canada and were there, and then it became a Danish colony in the 18th century, and then it has various levels of autonomy to the point where now it is almost completely autonomous, except it gets budgetary support from Denmark, quite a lot of it, and Denmark tends to be in charge of defense force and foreign affairs, but for the rest, Greenland is autonomous. There does seem to be some evidence that a majority of Greenlanders want independence from Denmark, but what evidence there is suggests they don't want to exchange their relationship with Denmark with a relationship with the US, which makes them even more of a vassal people. So we are joined now via Zoom by Peter Ernstved Rasmussen, who is a Danish defense analyst. Peter, good morning. Thank you for getting up early to talk to us this morning.
Good morning, Cape Town.
How do you see Donald Trump's desire for Greenland playing out in the next weeks and months?
Well, we are looking very much forward to see what is going to happen because, and thank you for ruling up what has happened over the last 200-300 years in Greenland. The thing is that Donald Trump already has all the power to do whatever he and the United States want to do in Greenland when it comes to military and bases and things like that. And therefore, the people of Denmark doesn't understand why he needs it. And as I have written several times in my own media, it's named Obvious, that it's a lie when he says that he needs it due to security reasons, because there is an agreement from 1951 giving the United States all the power to establish military bases. During the Cold War, they had they had 17 bases. Now they only have one, the Pitofik Space Base up north in the northwestern corner of Greenland. And we have just followed the development over the last year because Donald Trump said in 2019 that he wanted to buy Greenland, and he was the Danish Prime Minister replied that the argument was absurd. And then he actually canceled a visit to Copenhagen at that time. Since then, he again, in just 1 year ago, just before Christmas 2024, he again stated that he wanted to buy Greenland, and he said it was necessary to get control over Greenland. And since then, we have just seen the pressure rising. And the last thing is that, as you mentioned, the Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, and leaders of the big European countries, Spain, France, Germany, UK, Poland, has together said that that is not an option. So we are very concerned what is going to happen. And of course, I didn't really fear that there was going to be an American invasion of Greenland, but I must say over the last couple of days, I'm not so sure anymore.
What's the sense of the Danish accessibility to the idea of complete independence for Greenland? Do you think that the current Danish government and any likely future Danish governments would like to keep the relationship very much as it is at the moment?
I'm sure that the Danish government would like to keep the relationship somehow as it is, and I think it will take a lot of years before Greenland would be ready to stand alone. The thing is that there are only about 57,000 inhabitants in this enormous landmass. So the economy is very small. And to think that Greenland would be able to run the whole country by themselves is maybe a little bit, well, it's not something they are ready for at the moment, at least. So in my opinion, I think it's very clear that the Danish government would like to continue running Greenland as an autonomous country. And the leader of Greenland, Jens Frederik Nielsen, has also stated that we are not ready to stand on ourselves at the moment. But the question is, what is going to happen?
And you think a sale is even more unlikely than unlikely? A sale is impossible.
Well, it is not impossible, but as both the Danish Prime Minister and the leader of Greenland has stated, Greenland is not for sale. And the Danish position has since over the last 30 years been that what is going to happen with Greenland is the decision of the Greenlandic people. So they need a referendum to get there totally to be themselves. And things are not ready for that referendum yet. But of course, the United States can put so much pressure on Denmark and Greenland that they are forced to sell, but I just can't see it happen because the statements and the politics are so clear at the moment. This is not gonna happen. And I think that the consequences, if the United States really try to force Denmark to sell Greenland, but for the first thing, they cannot sell without the accept from the Greenlandic people. But if they really try to buy Greenland or to make an invasion, I mean, to send some troops and just declare that now Greenland is American, the consequences would be dramatic because it would de facto mean an end to the NATO alliance. You cannot have a NATO member taking over parts of another membership's country. So the consequences would be heavy. And as you mentioned, when you started this session, the majority of the Congress in the United States don't see this as a good idea. So I think we are in the middle of a tense conflict, and nobody sees other ways to end the conflict than the United States to step down from the silly idea of taking over Greenland.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning, Peter Ernstved Rasmussen, a Danish defense analyst.